transferred to parts 2 and 3. So to expect that the entire cost should be recovered for the film to be called a hit would be foolhardiness, you know. But tell me, broad figures, what were y'all looking at when the film came out in front of the public, and how much would you attribute to parts 2 and 3?
Firstly, the budget was never made for one part.
Exactly.
The budget is made for 3 parts. Brahmastra is 3 films, not one film. It's part 1, part 2, and part 3. So the budget is not, it's not been broken down into film 1, film 2, film 3. It's for the entire trilogy. Secondly, we were just looking for the initial acceptance of this universe, which happened to us on day 1. We realized that we were home with the acceptance. A film to open in Hindi to open and other languages to cross the 35 crore mark
without a holiday and without a franchise.
Any holiday, that means that they had bought into the fact that this is a multiverse, a universe, and that's what we wanted, Komal, from this film. We were not looking at numbers and figures. We were looking, you accept this world because there's so much more, so much more to come. The moment this film gets acceptance, so whether it crosses 250, 300, all that is great, and we always are very, the numbers are very important. But to us, the most important is that we get to make part 2 and part 3. When we knew we were home with those important decisions for Brahmastra, that's it. That is the biggest success, that we're making part 2. You only make part 2 when part 1 is loved and accepted, and that's what's happening in this film, is that there is so much curiosity for the Dev and Amrita story, for the Isha track, for Shiva, for everything. Like, there's so much, like, we're inundated with questions where we go, and that is what I think Ayan created this universe for, to kind of get that dialogue and conversation and all that energy behind the film going.
True. Ayan, scripts you write for every film. This film was different because it was rich in visual effects, and visual effects of the kind Hindi audiences had never seen, Indian audiences had never seen. How was that journey of creating visual effects for the film? And how involved were you with the studio which was creating it, with the studios which were creating it?
Sir, you know, I want to give like 3-4 answers to what you asked me.
Definitely.
So the one thing is that working in India, especially I believe, and trying to do anything of super high quality in any department, for some reason, more so in India, I feel, one has to really be involved in every single department if you expect that quality. So I was very involved in VFX. Like, it was, and it wasn't looked at only as a technical outside department. It was, matlab, years were going just in working on the visual effects. That's one. Now the second thing, sir, is that in this visual effects word, VFX, you know, you kind of say it and you think it's one sort of technical term, that is one technical process that it represents. But actually, there are many stages in this visual effects process. And one big aspect of it is very connected with script writing and screenplay writing. Because, for example, in a moment where Shiva screams in the climax and this huge avatar of Shiva appears, fire avatar as we used to call it, that's not actually part of VFX, it's part of script writing. It's just visual script writing. And so, after we created the story of the film on paper, a long time went actually creating the visual script of the film. You know, and in a way writing the VFX of the film. So I put screenplay writing, story, and some of the VFX also into the same bracket of pre-production when we were devising the film. What I also wanted to add to that, sir, was that when we started off, with this concept of Brahmastra 1 and through it building this Astraverse concept, you mentioned earlier also that, you know, a lot of emphasis went on visual effects and, you know, maybe not enough on story. But the genre of the film was so new that when we began to just put this story together, this world of Astras that exists, now it still seems really simple. But because it was unlike any film that we had made before, and it was not based on any existing piece of literature like how the Marvel universe in Hollywood is based on 20, 30, 40 years of Marvel comics already having been written. We were actually setting out to do something that was inspired by lots of things, but was completely original in that sense.
A blank white paper.
So that effort to just articulate this world, that these astras exist in this nominal world, these are the different kind of astras. There was a lot of emphasis that went into writing that stuff, and sometimes I feel like I know how much effort that took, and that was a big part of the writing effort on this film as well, and I feel it needs, we don't realize how much credit should be given to that aspect of it,
Yes, yes. Ayan, again from you. If this film hadn't worked, for Karan it would be losses. For Disney it would have been losses. What would it have meant to you, having given a decade of your life? And as Karan said before you reached here, he said economically he is where he was 10 years back, So what would it have meant for you had it not worked?
So it would have come with a lot of hardship and heartbreak. But I am aspiring with every year that's going by to be have a warrior artist mindset. That's my goal to myself with every passing year, that I have to do the work really hard and not be just, have an attitude where I don't want to say that, oh, my life would have been crushed and I would not. That's part of what we do here. We do our best and we hope for the best. And then if it had not worked, I would have liked to believe that I would have picked myself up and tried to do something else. But what would have been really disappointing is that I truly believe we have a great opportunity for Indian film, Indian audiences, Indian entertainment, and for India with what we were doing with Brahmastra. The loss of that opportunity, I would probably have felt like, shit, I had a chance to really do something and I messed up that chance at some level. That's probably what would have been in my mind, because I really think with us having got the Brahmastra storytelling in, what we can build with the Astraverse now can be something that's really incredible for India. And so, yeah, that's my answer.
Phenomenal. I mean, what grit and determination. Karan, of course, when you make such an expensive film, you can't always be thinking that it will work. Finally, it's chance. Finally, it's the public which will give it the thumbs up or reject it, When those thoughts used to cross your mind, what if it doesn't work? We are putting in so much in terms of money, in terms of efforts, in terms of time, how would you cross those barriers and, get yourself going again?
It's absolutely impossible, because I think it's simple. It's an English saying, nothing ventured, nothing gained. And I think that everything that one ever does in the movies doesn't come with any guarantee. There's not a single movie that I have made where I have always felt that ye to blockbuster hone wali hai. I never feel that till eventually the universe decides and it happens. With Brahmastra, I'll tell you the honest truth was like, let's get the film ready. That was the stress. The stress of the result was really at that point secondary. Ayan was so stressed delivering the film. With the final VFX and the post, the sound, the music, all departments coming together finally. Really the stress was more about the delivery of the film than the result. And then once it was delivered, then all the stress and anxiety. But by then you get to find out immediately. So it was all about like, when will Brahmastra make it to the cinemas? At one point it became like, does it even exist? That because we've been talking about it for so long. And finally when it was out there, when the trailer was launched and, Ayan did everything to make the release date. There was no delay when we announced the 9th of September. And, and we combated COVID and lockdowns and everything, but still made it. And that to me was the biggest achievement. The fear of the box office was really secondary.
Ayan, very nice. Ayan, how did you keep the morale of your entire team high? Because this is unusual, for a film to take. Of course, you were creating a universe, etc., etc. You must have told everything to everybody. But even COVID had to come right in between your film, So those 2 years were unaccounted for. You wouldn't have even imagined that it's going to be delayed further for 2 years.
Sir, even what you just asked Karan, what did he feel, what did he go through in the making? I think there was a core team because we knew what it is that we were creating and we were also seeing it happen. There was a core team, Karan, some of my assistants, couple of other producers who were, running the show, Preetam Dada, Ranbir Alia, who were also, they could feel the potential over the years of what it is that we were making. They had seen the climax and they could see that aisa kuch hai nahi Indian cinema mein. So I think it wasn't only me, it was the work that we were doing that kept a certain core team inspired to keep going on the film.
That core team was most important.
Oh, sir, that core team, without that core team, I call them in my mind the core Astraverse team. That team I would not have managed this. You would never manage making a film like this without a few key pillars who, contribute to help you making it. It's impossible. So there are like a few people who I feel have done and given as much as I have given to this film. They aren't in this room and you wouldn't know them, but like there are a few people who've really contributed a lot to get this film done.
But you're the captain of the ship, huh? When does part 2 begin now?
So we have a target. I think we have a release date target, to be honest, which is 3 years from now, somewhere around Diwali 2025.
Okay.
And for part 3, our target is 1 year after that, 2026. And I say Diwali 2025 and Christmas 2026. I say this with a disclaimer because we have said this on Brahmastra also that it's coming, and then I think we've had about 6 release dates.
I just hope you
on
know
Brahmastra
that you
1.
have given the release date for part 2 and 3 and very nicely blocked those dates and everything.
Diwali and Christmas.
Like, I think what he's saying in a very casual way is like, I'm a little shocked that you've given this
No,
information.
Karan, I've already said it in
Oh,
interviews.
you said it. Okay.
I've already said it.
Okay. I was getting a little stressed. I could feel my sweat beads coming out. Why is he giving all this information
But if I may ask, you said a 3-year gap for part 2 and only a 1-year gap for part 3.
Aha.
Is
Sir,
the
I
part
think our approach is that we'll now take on the filming of part 2 and part 3 jointly.
Oh.
And I think we should, and that would be a very good idea as well for audiences to get the film faster and enjoy it. So that's the vision. Again, now I think refining our production process and being able to move faster in this Astraverse building dream is very important to achieving that dream. We can't take another 7 years to make part 2. So how do we maintain that quality and do it in that time is what we're all, honestly, it's part of the reason that I thought when Brahmastra 1 releases, I would be free for a bit, or that I'd be off on a holiday. When Ye Jawani Hai Diwani released, was felt so light. But with Brahmastra 1 releasing, I haven't been able to feel light. I feel that urge to start working on part 2. How do I crack part 2 better? How do we improve it? How do we make it faster? So that's the vision. We have to put it into play and make all of this happen.
Wow. Karan, you're smiling.
I mean, it's so exhilarating and exciting. I'm smiling only because I think for us, and for me and Ayan, actually, I go back to the moment, and I say this with a lot of love in my heart. When I remember in my bedroom of my earlier home, he narrated Wake Up, Sit to me. And to me, I always thought Ayan was bright. And he was narrating a really off-mainstream film. To the extent that Chintu ji, when we told him that it's a slice of life, he said, bread ke slices hote hain, life ke nahi. Tum kya? So he said, slice of life ka kya matlab hua? So he was like, I don't think he thought that Wake Up Sid would be anything. And I knew at that time when it was releasing that Ayan had a story to tell and had a vision as a filmmaker. And after that, then he made a completely different syntax film with Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. And today, he has made a completely different film with Brahmastra. Like if you wrote Wake Up Sid, Ye Jawani Hai Diwani and Brahmastra, and you didn't know details, you would never know that one filmmaker has made these films. I just feel like I'm just so glad. And I just feel like I'm so glad that I'm just a part of this boy's journey, because I believe that he has it in him to be a defining filmmaker of our times. And
He's proven that. He's
and,
proven that.
and I just feel so proud. I just feel so proud. When I see my name on a film like this, of course there is a lot of satisfaction. But when I see directed by Ayan Mukherjee, much more pride. Much more pride in my heart. Much more than it is even with my company name. Because to me, I've been in the business 3 decades. I've been part of telling so many stories. But in each and every time, someone that I have helped bring into the business or give them a platform emerges victorious because of their groundbreaking storytelling or just their inherent talent, it makes me so happy. It makes me so joyous that I can be a bystander of Ayan Mukherjee's vision and journey.
Let me also, you asked Karan a question. I also would like to share a little, 2-3 things about Karan that I feel maybe everybody knows, but like I think maybe they don't know as well. So there's 3 things, You also mentioned how emotional Karan is as a person. So I feel that, when he was talking about how nervous he was, or well, like how different Brahmastra was from another film when it released, etc. I feel that emotion that Karan feels on this film beyond the numbers and the achievement, also just for me on this film. So I feel it, like I feel that very strongly because he's very guided by emotion. The second thing about Karan is that beyond his own achievements and everything that he's doing and etc., he's actually a true film buff. And when he sees a piece of work that's going to become a part of pop culture or make a mark or a film that he believes is really good, Karan actually gets really excited. Like that really thrills him. I think it actually thrills him even though he's so successful and so wealthy and so this and so that. It actually thrills him the most. It gives him the greatest kick.
Gives him a kick. Yes.
Gives him a very, very big kick. And I've always noticed it. It's why, like, even when he sees a film like Bahubali succeed or something, he's excited, And the third thing, you asked Karan earlier, and I wanted to jump in then, where you said, how come you were not worried as a producer? And Karan was answering that question, and I was listening to his answer. And I know there's a logical part of his mind that's breaking stuff down. But I've always felt about Karan that the magic of Karan Johar is that he is just magically intuitive and instinctive. Magically. So there are certain projects, Karan works with all the directors who work with him in a completely different manner. There are certain projects, however high the stakes, that he just won't feel worried about. And then there's some small film that he might feel very worried about. And in fact, I think he just lives and works a lot on instinct. He might talk about it in the most articulate way because he's so articulate as a person. But his instinct is actually very, very strong. And I think that's really what, even when he was producing Brahmastra, somewhere I think instinctively he felt ki kuch acha hoga is film ke saath. We'll get there. I don't know how we'll get there, but we'll get there. And even when we now work, like supposing I have a poster or we have a song, Karan's first instinct I always hold a lot of value on. Not his fourth instinct. When you just show him something,
Immediate response.
his immediate response, I'm always like, Karan ko pehle kaise laga? And that's because he's such an instinctive, intuitive person.
I'm sure, and that's how he has his finger on the pulse of the people, and that is how he succeeds. One final question before I allow the gathering to ask you questions. I'm sure they have plenty of them. Was it difficult finalizing the people who would be the teams who would be looking after the visual effects? And how did you all freeze upon those teams?
So actually, we, you know this because you've been part of our whole, you know everything about our journey. Namit Malhotra, who's also one of the producers on Brahmastra,
yes,
and owns and runs Double Negative and Prime Focus. We've had our challenges as well internally, putting this vision together. For him to bring it in the cost that we had, this, that, lots of challenges. But he's definitely been one of the pillars in helping us achieve this, this kind of visual quality in the film. And there was a brief moment at the beginning where we went and assessed who that visual effects partner should have been for us. But to say it plainly, Namit was really a front runner in that game with everything that he had achieved internationally. And I think it was very, it was the right thing that happened for the project very important thing that happened for the project, that he came in directly into the destiny of Brahmastra. So he's definitely someone who's helped us achieve what we achieved with the film.
VFX Astra.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. You all both have been wonderful guests answered. I'm sure you all have plenty of questions because most of the people here have seen Brahmastra. So the house is open now. Sure. Just introduce yourself and then ask the question.
Yeah, myself Sumit from Arena Animation. A lot of our students have worked on this movie and some of them are here who want to work on part 2 and part 3. So guys, are you ready? Okay. Now the question is, India, specifically Double Negative and Prime Focus, has been working since the last decade for a lot of international movies. And you see Marvel, you see Avengers, you see Fast and the Furious, you name the movie, it's there. But for a movie like Brahmastra, why did it take so much of time due to the budget constraint or the story or due to, because technical experience is already there, we have proved it time and again. But what made it so lengthy process so that the part 2 and part 3 also would be taking a little more time? If you can please elaborate, thank you.
No, so what you said, you actually had your answer in your question. Sumit, right? Yeah. It's the catch-22 of the budget versus the quality. You know, what they are achieving in Fast and Furious, if you hear their visual effects budget, it would probably exceed the overall budget of a film like Brahmastra. So that allows them to move at a very quick speed. And when we started with this venture, we wanted to figure out how to get that high quality, and we did extend our budget, but we couldn't extend it to what an Avengers or a Fast and Furious extends their budget to. So that catch required internally for Namit to be able to give us his teams when they got a little bit of a break from working on a very big Hollywood film. Right? He had to manipulate his resources to allow this to happen. So that's really the play and the catch-22. And to be honest, it is still something that I think we've gotten better at playing that game, but it's still a challenge that we will have to face even as we take on part 2 and part 3. And we want to bring in more refined visual effects and more interesting things in the visual effects of those films. बहुत challenging है ये VFX का game India में.
Hello, and my name is Amit Dev. I was the first general manager of Walt Disney in India in '94. Very, very old time.
Hello, sir.
And Walt Disney has to leave India because IPR was not withheld at that time. So they again came back after 8 years when the IPR India signed the protocol. Right. But my question is different. I had seen Namit from very beginning with the old ambassador car from Calcutta, his father, and hiring cameras. My question is that from now till 3 years or till 4.5 years, there would be many new application software and creative technologies that would arrive. Today, Namit is doing things which he has not done at the time of, say, the earlier films. Even for his Oscar-winning film, he has used many prototypes which are not yet come into the commercial market. So that gives them the strength. So how would you like that kind of technology development to be brought between you and Karan and your team for Prime Focus and Double Negative to rise up further and using your film as probably an Oscar competition subject?
Sir, I'm very, very passionate now in exploring and growing in this technology space of visual effects. So definitely you're right. Even as we were making part 1, I already know that what we've achieved in part 1, proud as I am of it for India, because I know how much work it took and I see the quality on screen. At the same time, I was always walking into rooms where I could see, shit, I can do so much more. And I could see, foreign filmmakers and the big Hollywood studios being able to do much more than me. Every time I see a Marvel film now, I see shots and I understand how those shots have gotten created. And I know that we have not yet been able to get there. For budget, technology. So, sir, I'm in this zone. I'm going to keep trying to do my best to raise the level of technology and VFX. Hopefully one day, you know, you'll feel that we are completely step in step with anything happening in the West.
Hello.
Wow.
Hello. First, I want to congratulate for Brahmastra's success. I'm KP Misra, a regional filmmaker. I just want to know as a filmmaker how you motivate yourself despite having so much ups and downs throughout these years. And have you compromised any of your creativity ideas? What you planned? Have you compromised any of your creativity ideas throughout this year in process?
How do I motivate myself is a big question to answer. I mean, I think it's a very, like a very basic human question, because whatever we all do in our lives, I mean, I guess we get up every day and we try and do our best. And I really don't have a great answer for that, other than I'm just, you know, working hard and constantly trying to grow as a human being. And whatever I learn as a human being, I'm trying to bring it into my work. And I think I've become very comfortable now, even more now than I was earlier, in sacrificing a lot of my life for my work. You know, so I'm willing to pay the price to just do my best at work in my life. And the second part of your question was, are there compromises? Definitely. I think there is no life without compromise, no relationship without compromise. Even on Brahmastra, I cannot tell you, there are so many things when I hear some feedback also that my mind wants to say, Arey, but I had already thought of this, but then I couldn't do it this way. Or, you know, this is what we hoped to do and then we were not able to do. I'll tell you one interesting thing. In RRR, you know, the interval sequence where a lot of all the animals jump out, which was an incredible sequence. Now that sequence is done by Namit's company as well. And a few years ago, I had this incredible sequence with a bear in Brahmastra 1. And even now when I meet Namit, at that point of time, because of budget constraints, we had to cut the bear out of part 1. And it was a great sequence. And then on RRR, a few years later, they managed to put in a sequence with a lot of animals. Even now when I meet Namit, I'm like, you made me compromise, you made me take out the bear. The second half would have been better if the bear was in it. So you of course compromise, and you still try and do your best.
You bear it and grin.
And I think in filmmaking, and any of the younger filmmakers or people in the process of developing and creating, we don't ever call it a compromise. We call it a creative adjustment. And it just makes it feel better.
And as I said, you grin and bear it. Yeah.
Hello. Hi, my name is Abhijit Murudkar and I'm from Arena Animation, Dadar. My question is like, you have many artists who wanted to be a good concept artist. So how do you select a concept artist for these projects? And what is the process?
I'm desperate for concept artists. Literally, before you go, come up and speak to me, and all your people, I will connect you with people in our office. When we started making Brahmastra, I also didn't know, because I had not made a film like this before. One of the first things I learned is that we have to start with concept art, the visual script, because that's where everything takes root from. You know, the visual effects, everything starts with concept art. I need to find concept artists. In fact, we looked a lot, and we were looking the way that, like, you know, like a startup company would look. We would go online and write, who are the concept artists in India? Even for a company like Namit's in India, they struggle with finding good concept artists. So we are definitely on the lookout. And to build this big Astraverse idea in part 2 and part 3, we need a big group of concept artists to come in and work with us. So give me your number and I'll connect you, and give us all your friends' numbers as well.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Hello. Good evening, everyone. Hello, I'm a filmmaking student, and first of all, congratulations to both of you on your success of your film, and I hope the second film also reaches even more heights. My question to you is, as you have pitched your film to multiple studios, even like Disney, and even to him also, so the initial part of your script which you had in your mind, it must have changed multiple times, and you have incorporated a very crucial element of this country, that is mythology, which can't be factually wrong. Or like when you incorporate something, it can be interpreted wrong way. how cautious were you while writing those elements in your script? That it can be interpreted wrong way. How can it create an impact that can be a bit problematic for you later part of the time?
No, I hear you. Let's call it like Indian history, basically. I'll answer the. Okay. I'll answer the second part of your question about the touch of Indian history. So, I think that's one of the magic ingredients in Brahmastra. In the title, this Indian spirituality history, I think it's what has also attracted a lot of people in, along with the visual spectacle, you know, into. So I think it's a very important ingredient. And I've thought about it myself. I realized that early on, that, you know, if the bedrock of this fantasy needs to come from Indian history. I did not approach it in a very scholarly fashion. I approached it in a very emotional fashion in part one. In fact, as I move on to part two and part three, we might get a little more academic on, you know, on astras and reading a lot more about like Indian mythology. But on part one, I have to be honest, I approached it in a very emotional manner. What was my connection with my faith, with God, stuff that was in me that I had forgotten, what were the kind of shlokas I had heard, what was my understanding of Hindu philosophy, and I just expressed it. And I went with the idea that if I do this in a pure way, with a pure heart, that somehow it will go through very naturally and people will not have any issues with it. And I think that's kind of what happened as we put the film out. We didn't really have any issues with anybody, you know, pointing out things that they were uncomfortable with. I think we had one issue with like Ranbir clicking the ghanti in our trailer and, you know, he was wearing shoes. But other than that, it went through really nicely. So I think that instinct of mine worked.
किसी की भावनाओं को ठेस नहीं पहुंचा. Let's put it that way. There's a lot of bhavnas around in India.
So, good evening, everyone. So my question to you, sir, is that in order to commit yourself into making a film like Brahmastra and, you know, creating the entire Astraverse, it's very important, like you said, to have, you know, the same long-term association with the same cast and crew. So how do you plan on, you know, retaining the same cast and crew for your further movies? Because like we have seen in the different universes, like with the Marvel universe, we have seen that it has worked for them, that they've hired the same director, the same cast over and over again. Like the Iron Man did not change from movie 1 to movie 3. So, but it did not, like DC did not do something similar. So it did not quite work out for them. So how do you plan on retaining the same star cast in the crew?
No, I'll answer your question partly because what's your name?
Akash.
Akash. Yeah. So my vision definitely is that as we move forward in this journey, we bring in more cast members into this world. But I think with what Ranbir and Alia and certain other people, Mauni Roy, Mr. Bachchan, what everybody did for us on part one is that they paid the biggest price, the blood price, to help us get this whole thing going. Basically, you know, I don't expect us to take that long to make any other project after this. So on the Brahmastra trilogy, of course, we continue with this cast and with Ranbir and Alia. But I'm hoping that as we venture out to work with anybody else now, it won't be that as challenging as it was for the actors on part one because they won't have to commit that much of their time to get it done.
There was this, yeah. Yes, lovely lady.
Hello,
Please
sir.
allow her. She's been wanting to ask a question.
Hi, good evening. My name is Nandini. Firstly, congratulations. I saw the film, loved it. And just wanted to understand, like both of you being the creative masterminds that you guys are, I mean, in the process of making the film, did you find any creative disagreement between the two of you? Which...
To be honest, not at all, because this was completely born within Ayan. And every bit of the film, every element, every part of it, every aspect of Brahmastra was created within his, and from his imagination and his visualization. So there was no way I could disagree, because how do you disagree with somebody's vision to this extent? I mean, you can give your input and you can, like, there were sequences when we saw it was never a disagreement. It was feedback.
There was stuff Karan didn't like also. You know, we have this big Kali Puja sequence in the film now where Ranbir goes. There was another sequence there. And the second time you saw it, you were very harsh. You really, I don't know what I'm allowed. I'm allowed to say that
Kali
you
Puja sequence.
really
Loved
bitched
it.
about it. Am I allowed to use that
I
word?
didn't say bicha. I said the scene was terrible. And I said, I think you need to reshoot it. And there was actually, and we can say it now, but Kesaria was shot in another way. Kesaria, and already we got some flack for like, he was on his way to save, he was the artist, but they sang a song before that. But it was Kesaria, so hopefully it was
Which, by the
forgiven.
way, we plan to release just for fun.
Yeah,
in
we
a
are.
few days.
But there was actually Kesaria shot with Ranbir dancing, like quite feverishly. And when we saw the song, I was like, Ayan, what the hell is going on? Like, why are they dancing? Like, he was literally doing a dance on Kesaria was a different track. Same tune, melody, but treated differently. So then Ayan himself realized that it had to be treated as a love song. So we reshot Kesaria and the scene prior to that, which he made into the Kali Puja scene, which was before that in Isha's house. And that's why people talk about where did Isha come from, what is Isha's roots. But it was all there in that scene. But we had to compromise on her backstory for the pace of the film.
Creatively adjust.
Creative adjustment, yes.
Oh, we're very happy with the way it came out finally. Thank you.
How sweet,
One
thank
last
you.
question. One last question.
Sir, to your right. So Karan and Ayan, both of you, you just said that you like your critics, maybe trawlers. So how much you owe the success of the movie to the boycotters and the trawlers? How
To the trollers?
Yeah.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Faceless, nameless people, dear sir, don't deserve any acknowledgement, and they certainly haven't contributed to the success of Brahmastra. In fact, if at all, it was our film was an answer to all their negativity with just the light that Brahmastra had.
I'm a reviewer myself. Let me tell you, I'm a reviewer, not a troll. I'm a reviewer. I don't think any reviewer in the world has the power to change public opinion. It is you who make a film a hit or a flop. No reviewer, no trade analyst, no critic can change the public opinion. You read reviews and you forget them. If you agree with that, you say, हाँ उसने ये बोला था, उसने ये लिखा था. But perish the thought that we can change how people think. What is important is the word of mouth after the release.
And full respect, and on a last note, full respect from all of us as filmmakers to opinion. I mean, and it's come in the form of reviewers and genuine audience feedback, and as we say, saranko par. We'll take everything, because once you make a creative product, it is going to be open to all kinds of interpretation and opinion. And we are absolutely, completely fine and actually accepting of everything. But it's trollers and negativity that haven't even perhaps seen the film. They had just started abusing the film for no reason. अरे but आपने picture देखी है, आपको कुछ पता है picture के बारे में, आपको कुछ नहीं पता, बस आपको बस बोला गया है कि आप जाके, like, you know, like somebody, one group has been formed and they just want to troll it for fun sometimes, you know, it's like,
And what is amazing is, suddenly, I never knew I was in such a glamorous profession or such a paying profession. Suddenly everybody has become a trade analyst. Suddenly everybody talks figures. You know, और ये तो loss करेगी तो. Ask them what is gross, what is net collection. Ask them what is the cost and what is the revenue. Ask them how much of the revenue comes to the distributor. I will leave this industry if they can answer those simple questions.
No, and that is absolutely true. And but Ayan and me, I think he gets that a little bit from me also. Is that we are academically obsessed with box office. You know, it's something that has been. I remember reading your magazine as a child. Like, not that I'm aging you, but because I'm also 50.
Because
years
I
old.
was also a child.
Yeah,
We read
you
it
were
together.
a child. In case you thought, but I'm sure when it was a family magazine. I remember Saturday sham ko aati thi, and my father used to bring it and tease me, and he's saying, "I'm not giving it to you." And I was like, I wanted Anikas to read the percentage of opening and all. Like, I used to read it more than my own report cards.
Thank you. You all have been a lovely audience, and thank you, Karan. Thank you, Ayan. Thank you so much.
And thank you on behalf of everyone at Ficci and Leena and the entire team. We are very, very grateful for having gotten this opportunity. See you at the movies. Thank you.
Wishing all the parts of Brahmastra bountiful of successes, and a group picture for our memory's sake. If you can, three of you can come together and step ahead. Yes. Looking forward to the remaining parts of Brahmastra. And on that note, we close Ficci Frames Fast Track 2022. Goodbye, everybody. This is Manasi taking your leave. Have a lovely time ahead.